What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the On Purpose podcast, where it's always our privilege to show up with you each and every week to get you thinking, get you moving, get you pondering. Am I leaving something on the table? Am I capable of more? Is there something more I should do? Something more I should give? Something more I need to challenge myself for? And I want to thank you for being here. Without you, we couldn't get this done. And it's an honor, right? And I asked for those of you that have a role where you get to lead other people, which is almost everybody, right? Whether you're a parent, a boss, a team leader, whatever it is that you get to lead people, stop for a minute and make sure you realize how humbled you should be to have that spot in their life. To understand that getting to serve others is one of the greatest gifts we can give. Right. And that is how we create our legacy. Our legacy isn't through what we take, what we make, what we obtain. People are going to remember you for what you give, how you make them feel when you're around them, how you led them and interacted with them through employment, chance encounters. So don't ever take that for granted, especially in hard times, right? Times where people might be struggling and maybe it feels like the burden of leadership is too much. Burden of responsibility of trying to create is too hard. Stop for a minute. Remember, you're playing a role in their story, and you're a character in the story of their life. Is one of the things I always like to measure up my daily actions and what will my character play out like when they share that story. So I open with that to get you guys prepared. Today I want to talk about something what I call the messy parts, and I get that from my good friend Xana Wolfgang, who you've heard on the show a couple times, and she uses that term, the messy parts, right, of life, and too many times we want to hide from our messy parts. Too many times we want to pretend they don't exist, or they can only we can know about them. We don't want to share them, and I thought this week would be a good time to share something like that from us and from my perspective. So I was recently catching up with someone after a training session, and we were just sitting around kind of decompressing, reviewing what we had covered, what we wanted to tackle in the next session, and talking a little bit about life outside of work in the classroom. And she asked me a very innocent question that really took me back and made me pause. And that was, have you gone on any vacations this year? And I was silent for a minute and I kind of looked at her, and it wasn't because I didn't have an answer, but more so because I wasn't sure how to answer. I wasn't sure if what I wanted to say would come across as bragging, boasting, arrogant. So I deflected the question. I asked her, I was like, well, don't you have a vacation coming up, right? You have a trip, and got her talking about that. And I listened as she shared her plans. And eventually the question came back to me, and I said, as humbly as I could, that I have to be honest. Our life, the life Andrea and I have created and the kids have created, is pretty much like a vacation, right? I thought about the places we had been since I had last seen this person, and that included swimming in the springs of Florida, hiking in the canyons of West Georgia that I didn't even know existed, getting stuck and then unstuck at Lake McConaughey in Nebraska. Were all first time experiences, right? We're all things that we had thought about doing, and some we didn't even know were possible, but we'd gotten to do those because our life allows us to travel and allows us the freedom to live. Quite honestly, like part of every week is a vacation. But I wasn't 100% sure how to sell that message and to share that message. And then, quite honestly, like most conversations these days, things moved on quickly. And I don't even know if she really grasped what I was saying. And I probably put way more thought into it than she did receiving, because we do have a good friendship and I think she knows kind of what we do. And then she was off to her next task, and I was back on the road heading back out to the Black Hills for what would be the remainder of the summer. And that's one of the reasons I love road trips and I love driving is it gives me time to reflect. No music, no other conversation, just the wind down, that summer Midwest breeze with some humid air flowing through the truck. And I got to thinking that, yeah, our life does feel like a dream at times. Full of movement, right? Moving my body, running, lifting, being outdoors, hiking together. We're in nature all the time, waking up to the birds and sitting outside in the peace and quiet. And we've created the freedom to have time off, to slow the pace of our life down. But just as Xana has said in her episodes with us, it's not without its messy parts, right? It's not without its messy parts. And as we, are wrapping up, we're in fall here now by the time you hear this episode, we're going through a messy part in our life, right? And some of that messiness shows up in the form of doubts. Should we have sold the houses we sold? Should we have stayed in Colorado and kept building 401ks for our future selves? Did I walk away from my law enforcement career too soon and too young? Sometimes I wonder, sometimes I feel guilty when I do talk to people that are working 50, 60 hours a week, but they don't seem super happy. But they're in the process. And I'm wondering, man, should I still be in the mix? Should I still be getting that? Am I going to not be able to relate to people in the future because I haven't put those kind of hours in lately because I choose not to? And truthfully, sometimes when you go out on your own path, you go out on a different path, it gets lonely, right? Those questions tend to get louder for me when things get harder, right? When the plans I have set out and the path I think I'm on unravels. Maybe the classes we were counting on, the contracts we thought we had coming through get suddenly hit with budget cuts that we had no control over, but now they're not happening. When things like that get harder, it's easy for all of us, and me included, to stop and look back and go, man, the grass is greener where I came from. Maybe I should be working all those extra hours and saving a 401k and not being on vacation and just going through, quite honestly, the comfortable life we had created through the systems we had developed over the 21 years, but it wasn't leaving us fulfilled. But on those road trips, on that time to just stop and think and to sit with and go, okay, wait a second. You know what? No. Messy parts of life are always temporary, right? The hard parts of life, the frustrating parts of life, the parts where things don't work out the way you planned, usually lead to something else good. So I don't need to pretend that they're not there. I don't need to hide them from everybody like I used to. Right? I used to be that guy that was always fine. Everything was always good. But what I understand is the messy parts are necessary. If everything came easy, if everything went exactly as my plan, your plans, whatever, whoever's planning it, if everything goes exactly as directed, no setbacks, no additional sacrifices, no moments of doubt of, can I do this? Am I on the right path? Would you appreciate where you end up? Would it have meaning? Would it still be fulfilling? Right? I believe that tomorrow's sunrise is more vibrant when today's was cloudy, right? Now you appreciate it a little different. The sunset's going to be more rewarding because you keep moving forward, right? And in a world that's obsessed with comparison and making sure we always put our best foot forward, it's easy for us to forget that everyone's life has messy parts. It's part of being human. And without the necessary discomfort, there's no growth. So as I drove west, I felt something unexpected. I felt my mood shift from worry and doubt to gratitude. As I thought about the messy parts and the uncertainty, I became grateful that we choose to bet on ourselves. I became grateful as I thought to all the places we've seen, all the fun stuff we've gotten to do instead of putting all those hours in an office. And I was grateful that I chose adventure, that we chose adventure over comfort. I became grateful that the messy parts are shaping us into something stronger, wiser, and remind us that we're still alive and we don't have to be perfect. I felt grateful that I get to feel all the highs and the lows. And I'm no longer in a mindset to try and skip past the messy part. I don't need to pretend the messy part isn't real or that they aren't important in my life. A messy part of your life is a temporary place you're going to go through to get to something greater. It's nothing to be ashamed about, nothing to be embarrassed of. And just like the physical scars on our body from things that went awry in the physical world, the messy parts of our lives that go on inside our minds and our hearts are a reminder of the worthiness of the journey we're on. So I leave you with this. Something to ponder for the week is, what are the messy parts in your world? How can you reframe them not as setbacks or as things we're embarrassed to share or ashamed that we had to go through, but as stepping stones to lead you to where you're truly supposed to be? And how can we learn to appreciate the messy parts while we're in them to maximize the lessons that are meant to be learned? So I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Let us know on our social media, email, however you like to correspond. And please do us a favor. If you're subscribed to us, thank you. Give us a comment on one or two of the episodes. That helps us a ton. If you're not and you're just finding us, welcome to the community. Please go over, like, subscribe, and share on your favorite podcast platforms and YouTube. And as always, thank you for being here, and reflect on this over the next week. And we'd love to hear back from you. Have a great week.